and desktop audio when it's time on. Good afternoon, Wildcats. You're not going to see our faces very long. We're about to get in a little early on our Hearthstone match. I'm Zathras. I've got with me Clueless today, and we're going to be casting this match. We've got a good lineup today. It's going to be very similar to last week's lineup, where we're going to see a Death Rattle Hunter, even Warlock from the ACU team, and then the Odd Rogue is actually coming in this week instead of the Odd Paladin. So here's the deck lineup. You can kind of see the opposing team has banned our Token Druid, so we won't be playing that today. But we will see the Death Rattle Hunter, the Even Warlock, and the Odd Rogue. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that right now because we're about to go live into our game. So we're going to go to a quick be right back while we make sure that everything's set up and we can spectate that match, and then we'll just dive right in. Thanks. Okay, so we've got the game that's just barely started in progress. We're on turn 3 of this. We're actually watching the Token Druid, not the Odd Rogue at the moment. So what this is a Death Rattle Hunter deck. Its goal is to get Death Rattle minions out on the board and trigger those Death Rattles through things like Play Dead or Terror Scale, so that they can get larger creatures on the board. The Carnivorous Cube that you see in that hand is a good card to also trigger those, because it'll also generate more. So what the Carnivorous Cube does is it will kill the target friendly minion, and then when it dies, it will bring back 2 of that particular minion.
Should be a good match. I mean, I haven't played too much, but I mostly played Hunter. So what can you say about what's going on right now?
So what we see here is we're playing against an odd rogue, and so that means that the rogue only has odd cards in its hand, but as a result, its hero power gets upgraded, and that's through use of a card called Baku the Moon Eater. It's a 9-cost card, but if it's in your deck and you only have odd cards, then it's going to let you your hero power be better. And so we're playing against that odd rogue who's really just trying to push as much damage as possible. That's really kind of what it does.
And it looks like they're taking their time choosing which one to use.
I wonder.
Personally, I'd probably grab that Hunter's Mark.
Yeah, so what tracking does is tracking searches your deck and lets you pull one of those cards out, but it'll also discard the other 2. So you kind of have to be careful of which one you discard. In this case, they were just taking their time, looking through, trying to make sure that they got what they needed. They went ahead with that Terra Scale Stalker, and what it'll do is it'll go ahead and trigger the death rattle of a minion. So, for example, on the board you have that Spider Mine whose death rattle is destroy an enemy minion. And so the Terror Scale could go ahead and trigger that death rattle without destroying the Spider Mine and kill one of the minions on the other board.
The problem with B is just finding a good time to use it. Yeah.
So what I would be unsurprised if we saw a Terror Scale play dead on this next turn, just to kind of clear out this board, because no matter how they do it, well, it looks like they're actually going to go ahead and just run the Spider Mine in, taking out one of the other 2 3/4s, and then put out this Witchwood Grizzly. And that may be setting them up for a Carnivorous Cube on the next turn. If this Grizzly survives, then they can use the Carnivorous Cube followed immediately by Play Dead, which will allow them to have 2 3/12 taunts on the board, just kind of putting a big wall up in front of this high damage Odd Road. But it looks like they are going to go ahead and pull out that charge minion, buff it up with the Cold Blood, so that they can clear off that taunt while still getting damage to the face.
Yep.
Now, ACU wants to be really careful to do what they can with this fledgling, not let it hit them in the face, because as soon as that fledgling hits an enemy hero, it gets to adapt. And so what adapt does is it allows them to choose one of 3 different effects. One of the big ones that you often see is a Wind Fury, which will let it attack again, adapt again. It might also get a +3 to attack, a +1/+1. It might give it poisonous, all sorts of things. And every time it attacks and hits the enemy hero, in this case our hero, then it is going to adapt. So it looks like they're going to go with the Witchwood Grizzly again here, and hope that that will hold this off for the time being. You'll notice that they went ahead and attacked 1 damage into that 3/4. What that does is that just lowers it down to that 3 health, so that if it does attack this taunt, it's guaranteed to die.
You need as much taunts as you can get right now at that low of a health, since they probably don't have too many healing items.
Yeah, so there is no healing in the Rogue deck or the Hunter deck. So any damage that's done is done. And so they're going to go ahead and clear this off, be able to clear this off without really losing either of those 2 minions, which we're going to see the adapt on that Vicious Fledgling. This is not a position ACU wanted to find themselves in, because the more that Fledgling attacks, the harder it is to get rid of.
Oh yeah, and it seems like so far RNG is not on our side again.
Yeah, so I would expect that we might see a Giggling Inventor at this point. Giggling Inventor is one of those cards that's found its way into almost every deck in this particular meta, because it basically holds off 4 minions just by itself, because you have 2 taunts and they both have Divine Shield, so no matter what they do, they're gonna be able to hold things off for 4 minions usually, unless there's some sort of board clear. Now, and since this is an odd rogue, we won't see a Mossy Horror in this particular deck, which is a really good, strong counter to that Giggling Inventor, because it'll just kill anything with 2 or less attack. But since that's a 6-cost minion, we can't see that in the odd rogue. So we're going to just see Florida are just going to move in, attack in, and just hold on to this board for another turn.
Mushroom
Yep.
Now, Mind Control Tech is a great thing here. So that'll give them one of those enemy minions. That said, depending on which one they get, so that is not the one that they wanted.
No.
But at this point, they're going to go ahead and put the Defender of Argus out, so that they have 2 more taunts that can kind of block things off. And so it looks like they're looking at getting rid of that Fledgling, so they could attack in and then attack in with their face, which won't take any damage from the Candle Shot. And so that puts them out of range of lethal just on board.
And all they need are just a few more hits, and they got this.
So that's going to allow them to go ahead and clear out without taunt, push with 8 damage, putting ACU down into a really scary place.
Oh, yeah.
The mind control tech is not what they wanted to see on that pull. They wanted to see some sort of taunt or some sort of ability to clear off that board, but this puts them in a really bad spot. I expect we'll see a push here, followed probably by a concede, because there's not much that they can do at this point.
No. Unless if they had a charge with that somehow had 6 attack. But as far as I'm aware, they don't exist.
So ACU is just doing their diligence, making sure that they've thought of everything. They're going to go ahead and pass it over, and round 1 is going to go to the Florida State Southern Florida, the University of South Florida. JFW is their team. They're going to go up ACU is going to come into this next round with a loss. So the way this match works is this is a conquest format, and so each team will bring 4 decks, one of which is banned. So ACU's Token Druid was banned in this particular match, and ACU banned out the JFW Warrior, which they were going to bring a Taunt Warrior. It's a quest control warrior that's just really good against the aggro lineup that ACU's bringing. And so they've opted to ban that out. So ACU, in order to win, any team has to win with all 3 of the remaining decks. So now that JFW has won with that Odd Rogue, then we're going to see them play either a Spell Hunter or a Warlock. It's going to be a Zoo Warlock is what it looks like JFW is bringing.
And which of those 2 do you think would be the better choice right now?
So I kind of expect that we'll go ahead and see that Spell Hunter, trying to get that win in earlier on that. I think that that's going to be a more difficult deck for them to play against our team, but we'll kind of see what they do. So ACU might stick with the Death Rattle Hunter, give it another shot against one of those, or they might switch it up depending on how they see that matchup going. Now, they've got a 50-50 chance of what JFW is going to play, and so they can make a decision based on that. And so we'll see where that goes shortly, and we're just going to make sure that we get everything set up for that next match, and so we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back in, and it looks like we're going to see a Warlock versus Warlock, but it's not really a mirror match. So sometimes we'll see mirror matches. We saw a mirror match last week with an even Warlock versus an even Warlock, but today we're going to see an even Warlock versus the JFW's Zoo Warlock. So the key difference here, the Zoo Warlock is all about getting bodies on the board quickly, buffing them up, and doing lots of damage through a swarm of low-cost minions. The even Warlock takes a little more time. Honestly, it sits in a little more of a precarious place because it does a lot more damage to itself. So when I say even Warlock is based around Gin Greymane. Gin Greymane is a 6-cost card, but the relevant part is that he says that if you have only even cards in your deck, then your hero power costs 1. And so we're going to see the ACU Warlock tapping most turns, and so that's going to deal damage to itself, to the Warlock, to ACU when it does so, but it's going to fill up that hand where we already see that Mountain Giant in ACU's hand, as which could come down pretty quick here if ACU decides to continue tapping.
Seems like they're taking their time figuring out every step they need to take.
Yeah, and that's a great strategy. It's really important in the game not to get into a hurry, not to take snap picks just because they look like they're the best choice. Really calculate things out and make sure that you're going to make the best decisions. So we're going to go ahead and see another tap here, and they're going to play out this plated beetle, and that puts them in a good position here. They get something on the board, something that could challenge this dire wolf if other minions come out in play.
Oh yeah.
But they're still going to draw once next turn, so they'll be able to do that turn 4 Mountain Giant.
And they don't want to take it out immediately since it will give them some armor. I saw.
Yeah, and so the plated beetle is nice because its death rattle generates some armor. So they're going to go ahead. Florida drops out a Serenite Chain Gang, which helps to protect that wolf a little bit. So now ACU's got a choice. They could go ahead and drop this Mountain Giant, or they could go for a board clear, which would be really nice in this particular case. They don't really want this board to get too out of control. So if they run their beetle into one of those Serenite Chain Gangs, they can use Defile, which deals 1 damage, and then if it kills something, it deals another damage. If it kills something, it deals another damage. So it looks like ACU's not going to take that play, though. They're going to go ahead and set up for a Defile on next turn, but get this Mountain Giant on the board.
Now everybody else is choosing their cards wisely. And I guess this is where I mostly messed up because I never took my time.
Ha. So we see a Demonic Project in ACU's hand. It's one of the new cards, new project cards from the Boomsday Project that will turn 1 card in your hand and the opponent's hand into a random demon. Not really ideal for a Warlock versus Warlock matchup, but is great for playing against things like Shutterwalk Shaman or Malagos Druid, or things that really rely on a single card. And so this is a really great time for a Defile, but it looks like they're thinking about that Hooked Reaver. So a Defile right now would give them armor, clear the opponent's board, and allow them to go deal 8 damage to their face. But ACU is considering their options, so another option would be to put a Hooked Reaver out there, which would put you in a position to have a taunt on board that can kind of hold the line against this, maybe let them build out their board a little more for a Defile. So we'll see what ACU decides to do here.
Seems like it's a good time to wipe that board and just go straight for the face, but...
So it looks like they're thinking of running this beetle into that Serenite Chain Gang to gain that armor, and that would put it down to 1 health as well. And there we go. We see this Defile come out. That's going to clear off the opponent's board. 8 damage to go straight into the Florida team, and build up a little bit of board with this Ooze. Now the Ooze isn't really helpful with his Battle Cry in this particular matchup because the Warlock isn't running any weapons. The Warlock only has 1 weapon, which they're not playing in the Zoo Warlock deck.
But it does give something out on the field, so they have something to worry about.
Absolutely. So it provides yet another thing that the Florida team needs to worry about. And so now the Florida team is kind of probably looking to see how they can reload this board, how they can get more things out on, and challenge this 8-5.
So many possibilities.
Now, one of the things about Zoo Warlock is they don't have a large amount of taunts available to them. In this particular deck, they're running 2 standard knight chain gangs, so we might see one of those here, which ACU should be able to fairly easily clear off. They could either use the Hellfire. So it looks like they're going to choose to squeeze off and save that Hellfire for later clear. That just kind of gives them some more options later on. The Skull King Geist will clear out the Soul Infusion from the Florida team, which buffs significantly one of the minions in their hands. When we see Florida go kind of make another big presence here on the board, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Hellfire to clear some of this off, but that's going to sacrifice their own giant to do so.
So I would probably attack with it before using that Hellfire.
Well, it looks like they're really considering holding on to that Hellfire for a later point in time. So they're going to go ahead and sacrifice the giant there, sacrifice the Skull King Geist, rebuild another giant on the board, and go ahead and give both the Geist. They're not going to give the Geist taunt. They're just going to give that 8/8 taunt, so that they can protect that Geist behind and push in an extra 4 damage, because the Geist is significantly more likely to fall to something that's played out this next turn.
Oh yeah.
So ACU is really kind of taking a slow game here, which is good, making sure that they don't leave things on the board, because that's how you lose the Zoo Warlock, is when the board is not contested, they get a lot of things out there. It just gets out of control very quickly. So we're going to see another big taunt come out from ACU. They're going to use their Sacrificial Pact to take out the larger demon threat from Florida's team.
That way they don't have to deal with that 1 damage every.
And they're going to go ahead and make sure they clear off the board here. So they're debating here whether they want to clear the board or push the extra 2 damage edge. I would anticipate a board clear here just to play it safe. It's better, especially in their position they're in, to just be safe and make sure that the Zoo Warlock doesn't have anything to challenge. So that Spellbreaker is a really great draw. We see a Voidwalker here, and that's what I was about to say. The Voidwalker is their only play left in terms of taunts, and that silence is going to spell doom for the Florida team, because they're going to just be able to silence that Voidwalker and swing in with their 8/7 and their 7/7 and close out match 2 with a win in ACU's favor. They're just playing everything out just because they can, heal themselves up a little bit, swing in, and finish that match.
Looks like we got a win.
We did. So, the even Warlock is fairly favored in that particular matchup. It's really a matter of how quickly the Zoo Warlock is able to build up that board, and we saw that it got a little dicey there right at the beginning, where the Zoo Warlock just had a lot of stuff on board, but that's why the even Warlock has those clears. It's all about controlling the board while you get your big threats out and can really challenge those small minions with just big, tough things that they just can't break through. So we're going to go to a brief break while we queue up the next match, and we'll see what teams are playing what.
Mael versus Gul'dan.
None can escape my fury.
We're about to move into our next match. They're getting queued up pretty quick here. It looks like we are going to see an odd rogue coming in from ACU. I'm not sure yet what we're going to see from the Florida team, we could see something similar to our first matchup with a Odd Rogue versus a Hunter. But their Hunter is going to be a little different. It's going to be a Spell Hunter. So let's see what we see here. Okay, so it looks like we're going to see this Odd Rogue versus the Zoo Warlock. So it's going to be kind of a similar play to last time. It's all about controlling the board. Whoever can keep the board under their control is going to win this match. Unfortunately, the Odd Rogue doesn't have a whole lot of really good board clears, like is at the disposal of that even Warlock. But they do have some ways of putting big threats out there that Florida would have to push their little minions into.
Looks like they're already going for the heal.
So we've got this Light Warden that has just come out. I expect we're going to see a challenge with a Hinged Clan Thug and an attack into it, so to clear off that Warden, leaving a 4/4 on the board, leaving Florida with a choice of either killing both of their minions or attacking in and leaving them in place. If that Hinge Clan in place, he's going to get really big or really fast. So I expect they're not going to do that. So yes, they're going to go ahead and clear off the Hinge Clan Thug and establish themselves on the board.
Looks like we just got a giggling into as well. They're playing the Blink Fox.
So this is a great pickup from ACU. So like I said, the Odd Rogue does not have a lot of really great board clear options, but that Blink Fox just pulled a Defile from Florida's hand. And that's going to put them in a good position to be able to do a full board clear at a later time. Right now we're going to see the Giggling Inventor come out. Again, it just challenges 4 minions on the board. It says you have to hit these 4 times before you can do anything. The Zoo Warlock on Florida's side is not running any kind of clear with Defile or Hellfire or that kind of thing, like we see in the Even Warlock deck. So they're just going to have to move through this as best that they can.
Oh yeah. Looks like they already got one of the taunts out, but completely left the other one alone.
So this is a great place for a Defile. I think if I'm doing my math correctly, with a attack into that homunculus from the Annoyatron and a Defile, that's just going to clear everything right up and establish a vicious fledgling on the board that is going to have to be contested by the Florida team. So now we're going to see if they have a Voidwalker or a Serenite Chain Gang in their hand, which they do. They're going to actually buff up that Chain Gang with the Direwolf just to make sure that the Fledgling doesn't have an opportunity to attack in. Now what we could see here is a South Sea Deckhand followed by, with a Cold Blood to clear off one thing, followed by a Vile Spine Slayer on the on one of the remaining 2 things that would allow ACU to either clear off the board completely or get this Fledgling attacked into face. So they're looking at those options as to what do they want to do here. They have several options at their disposal with the Slayer that can clear off any of these as long as it has a combo to proc, but that Deckhand, well, I say that the Deckhand does not have a dagger up to proc his charge, so it won't be able to actually charge in. So ACU might be considering a Cold Blood on the Fledgling, or an Argent Squire going down to proc that Slayer. So they're going to put the Slayer out and kill off. Yeah, they're going to go ahead and kill off the Direwolf, which I think is a good choice here. Allows the Fledgling to attack without dying, but it leaves the Fledgling fairly vulnerable to a single attack from that Serenite Chain Gang.
And more than likely, they're going to take it out.
But ACU still has established himself well enough here that they should be able to. Well, that's a pretty big board that they're going to have to eat through here. So we'll see what ACU does. Now, at this point, that means that we've seen a Voidwalker and a Serenite Chain Gang, so we're starting to see fewer and fewer taunts from the Florida team be available to them. So we see a pretty quick decision here by ACU. They've probably been talking during the turn about what they're going to do. They're going to dagger up so that South Sea Deckhand has charged. Put that poison on. This is going to allow them to clear off both of these taunts, as well as the Imp, and push through with 5 from that Cold Blood. Now, this puts Florida in a really sticky position where unless they have that other Void Walker or the Serenite Chain Gang, they're unlikely to be able to hold off this assault by ACU's Rogue here.
Seems like they didn't seem to have it, so they had to draw another card. We'll see what they got.
So we do see a Void Walker down. That's not going to win them the game yet because we still have enough damage on board to clear it off. They're going to Soul Fire and get rid of a Light Warden. So we don't. So let's see if I can count that out here. With this deckhand, we were able to proc the Vile Spine Slayer and go ahead and attack it, bringing ACU up 2-1. So ACU is going to be on match point now. We're going to see them now playing their Death Rattle Hunter that we saw from the very first match. So they're going to have to go back to that and beat whatever comes their way. So we've seen that the Florida team has already won with their rogue, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So the Florida team has won with their rogue. So we're either going to see a Hunter versus Hunter or a Hunter versus that same even Warlock that Florida just doesn't seem to be having good luck with. So we'll see one of those two matches here in just a moment, and I expect that should be pretty quick here to coming up.
Hopefully we do get to see the Hunter, so we can just see everything they brought, but it's up to them.
And so their Hunter is really different than the Death Rattle Hunter that ACU is bringing. So the Florida Hunter is a Spell Hunter where all of the cards, it has no minions in its deck. Everything is spells or a weapon of some sort, and it centers around Rock Dalar, which is a hunter weapon. It's a 7-cost hunter weapon that says when you play it, if you have no minions in your deck, fill your hand with spells. So it offers a really nice, quick reload. And I say there are no minions in the deck, but they still are going to have minions that come on board
Spells.
because they've got things like the deadly shot, or
And it looks like we're going to get to see
Animal
it.
Companion or other things that summon stuff.
And it looks like their enemy team is going on right now and choosing what they want to start with.
Yeah, so we're going to see that Hunter versus Hunter match like we were kind of hoping to see. It's going to be Death Rattle Hunter versus Spell Hunter. So ACU is going to be trying to get these minions on the board that can stick, and the Florida team will be clearing them off with their spells while establishing board presence as best they can with those spells. So we see a secret go down from the Florida team, and there are a couple secrets. There are actually 3 secrets that they have in this deck. The Explosive Traps, which will deal 2 damage to everything on the board. The Freezing Traps, which will send that minion back to the hand and make it cost more. And a Rat Trap, which I don't remember all of the mechanics of that Rat Trap, but it involves summoning a large rat.
It seems like they got 2 on their face card now, and it seems
So
like
with
ACU
2
is going to be a
secrets,
lot more cautious.
We've got a really good chance of ACU got to be careful of what they decide to put out, because if they attack in, it's likely to come back to their hand through that freezing trap. So ACU we might see a play dead here. We might start out with a tracking just to see if they can pull something from their deck that will help them a lot. But we'll see what they're doing. It looks like they're looking heavily at that play dead as an option for putting out on the board. We're going to see the tracking first. That's a good idea just to get something. I expect they're going to go ahead and grab that Katharina because it's going to be really useful later. Unfortunately, that does sacrifice the Witchwood Grizzly. It's kind of a really terrible choice. The Mind Control tech is not going to be super helpful in the Spell Hunter.
Does seem like they got the Katharina.
So they're gonna bring that Katharina out. So Katharina, when she comes out, she summons a beast, and when she dies, she summons a beast. And so in this case, that's only two things. There's gonna be a single Witchwood Grizzly and a King Crush, and that King Crush is great because it's a 9-cost charge minion that is just gonna swing in immediately if it gets pulled from that deck. I've seen some variants where the Death Rattle Hunter will include like a charged Devilsaur, where that says it can't, has a battle cry that says it can't attack enemy heroes, but when Katharina pulls it out, doesn't have the battle cry, and so it can attack the heroes. But their ACU's team is not running that. They only have the 3 beasts in the deck with the Witchwood Grizzlies and King Crush.
Seems like they also saved their coin and just filled the board with...
So I expect we're going to see a pretty quick Mind Control tech here. Just take over one of those 4 things. We're not going to see much use of that with anything else in the game. And they're going to go ahead and... They're thinking about the Candle Shot or the Hero Power. A Candle Shot just kind of keeps them equipped for future things. But I think that the Hero Power is actually going to be a better shot here. Looks like they're going to wait to make that decision depending on what happens here. And so we get an attack in, which is going to proc that freezing trap, which unfortunately puts that Devilsaur back in your hand, and a 7-cost 5/5 is not a really great play.
No. So they may not touch that one.
So they're going to go ahead and equip the Candle Shot here, knowing that there isn't really any weapon removal in the Florida team's deck. And they're going to pass things over with 9 damage on the board from the Florida team. So we'll see how they handle this.
And that secret they have may just be an explosive trap, but once they attack face, we'll find out.
Well, we know it's either a explosive trap or a rat trap. It is likely that so it is a good chance that that second secret that is just dropped is another freezing trap. We know that they are bringing 2, and if you just lost one, that means that you're eligible to play another one, because you can't play one if you have one in play already. So ACU probably is aware of what's going on with that.
I wonder.
And they're looking
So
through what
ACU
they
is
have.
considering putting the egg into a cube, which would allow it to go ahead and proc the Death Rattle, and when the cube dies, it would proc 2 more eggs, which then are great targets for a Mossy Horror that they're running in this deck, where they can just pop open a whole bunch of eggs all at the same time. It looks like ACU is really considering a whole bunch of different options here.
Oh, yeah.
They could put a Spider Bomb out, or 2 Spider Bombs out, just as something to do. So I missed that particular secret. So they do have 2 Wandering Monsters in their deck, which summons a new target when they attack. So they're going to leave, again, there's 8 damage on the board, but the Florida team does have to come up with a way to challenge what ACU has put out.
It seems like they just keep adding more to the board.
So, the Spell Hunter deck is really interesting because for a deck that runs no minions, they're able to really easily fill up this board. And so we
yeah.
see those 2 companions come out as a really good pick for them. And so they're just allowed to push a lot of damage into ACU's team. Now, ACU right now is really hoping for a Terror Scale Stalker or a Play Dead. I don't know how many that they have spent of their Play Deads this particular turn.
I believe just one. So.
I think it was just one. So the Florida team is setting up lethal here. So ACU is going to need to do everything they can to clear off this board. They're going to be able to take. So I think they're going to, with Deathstalker Rexar, they have a good chance of being able to kill off a large portion of this board at least. I'm going to go ahead and play him first.
Get that 5 armor as well, help him out a bit.
Yep, bring them back up to 15. It's going to kill one of them straight off the bat. They're going to be able to push through this taunt and then clear off one of these wolves. And probably we'll see them clear off that wyvern as well.
And it seems like, as of right now, they are safe for this next turn.
Yeah, so that's kind of stabilized ACU for the time being. It changes out their hero power, so the Death Star Rexar's hero power allows them to build a beast.
Okay.
What that does is it gives them 2 beasts in a discover kind of format, where they discover one beast and discover another. And they come in. Now, we get a well played from the other team, so it looks like they've got probably a kill command. Yeah, there it is in their deck. And they're going to go up, taking the series to 2-2.
So it seems like we're going to have quite an interesting match with their
we're going
Warlock.
to map 5, which is going to be ACU's Death Rattle Hunter against Florida's Warlock.
Yeah.
Florida's Zoo Warlock that they haven't quite been able to make work yet.
And hopefully they can keep that up so we can win. But
that's what we're all hoping.
Yeah.
Get ACU on a winning streak here.
Looks
like
they're
we're going
starting
right into this game. So we've got that Death Rattle Hunter. This is the 3rd time we'll see that on ACU's side this particular match. And so they've got some options here in the mulligan where I bet they'll send the Witchwood Grizzly back because that's good to pull out. Oh, it looks like they're going to keep their entire hand. I'm wrong there. So Candle Shot is great paired with that Hunter's Mark because it lets you, for 2 mana, clear anything on the board. And we see the aggressive quick.
So explain to me why they would allow that to attack them, or what exactly it does. That card.
So the Flame Imp is just so it's a 3/2 1-cost minion, so it's a lot of damage for 1 minion, and it deals 3 damage to the hero. So it's as long as it gets 1 attack in, it's an even trade. If it gets 2 attacks in, it's a better trade. So in this case, it got 4 damage in, so it was a better situation for the Florida team. ACU's going to put this Spider Mine out on the board, which the Florida team is going to go ahead and just clear off. That's a really smart move on their part because it clears it off without its Death Rattle being able to do anything else. We see a Librarian for a draw, and there's that Soul Infusion that they're going to get off early, buffing up that Light Warden pretty quick here.
Oh, yeah. They may just use the Hunter's Mark on it and just smack them with their weapon.
So I would be unsurprised to see a Hunter's Mark on the Light Warden with an attack from the Candle Shot, unless they want to establish a Spider Bomb. Though it's really better to save that Spider Bomb for a time where you can proc it with a Terror Scale or a Play Dead.
Yeah.
Which they've got the Terror Scale, but not the mana to play both this turn. So we'll probably see that Hunter's Mark followed by the Candle Shot attack.
Because again,
it's all about holding on to the board and not letting it become overwhelming from the even Warlock, or from the Zoo Warlock.
Because if you can just keep their board clear, then they're useless.
And it looks like Florida is just really hurting for relevant cards at the moment. They're putting a lot of little things out, which is helpful for them, especially when ACU doesn't have a lot of great ways to clear things off. So we're going to see a kill on to one of these 2-1s. It really doesn't matter which one they pick. There's no return to hand mechanic in either of these decks. And that's going to establish a 3-3 on the board, giving Florida the option of either clearing it off or attacking in and sending 4 damage to ACU's hero.
We'll see what they choose.
I expect that depending on what Florida does, it plays out here. We might see the Witchwood Grizzly come out. It depends on how much of Florida's hand is emptied out. The Witchwood Grizzly's health is reduced by the number of cards in the opponent's hand. And that's probably actually why they went ahead and held that Grizzly. It's probably a better play than I had initially thought, because the Zoo Warlock is commonly emptying out its hand, giving ACU an opportunity for a larger taunt on the board. So here is great. Great for that Witchwood Grizzly. We see this 5/5 come out, which is going to clear things off, but leave only 1 card in their hands. So we're going to see a 2/11 Witchwood come out. Sorry, a 3/11 Witchwood Grizzly right there, just contesting this board.
Oh, yeah. And that will definitely help them out to just keep everything off of their face.
One of the best things that ACU could draw right now would be a Play Dead. That would let them Play Dead on this Witchwood Grizzly, which Florida just can't kill off this turn, and establish... that's perfect.
Perfect.
So they can use the cube on this Grizzly, Play Dead that cube, and get 2 3/12 taunts on the board while maintaining a cube behind those taunts that they can use Terror Scale Stalker on next turn. And then when that dies, they get 2 more, just creating this massive wall of taunts. And that wall is just devastating to a deck like Zoo Warlock.
Oh, yeah. And they might also be able to do that.
That said, Death Star Rexar is really hard to pass up this turn.
Oh, yeah. That should be able to take out all of them.
Take out 3 of those minions. The Grizzlies will take out 2 of the others, and the cube will take out the last, and just establish such a strong board presence here by ACU. While Florida's team really just doesn't have the cards in their hand to challenge this board. You see them tapping every turn, trying to get something to challenge ACU's dominating presence in this particular game.
And it would also be a great time to pull out another bear.
So yeah, we're going to see that Terror Scale Stalker is going to put out a couple more bears, and then, you know what's better than 2 more bears?
Probably even more.
4 more bears. So they're going to actually go ahead and build a beast this turn. So we've got a fledgling, and it looks like they took the cute little flipper, so that they have a 4/4 vicious fledgling on board, just behind this massive wall of tanks, and that Florida is just
hoping that they can
unlikely.
do something.
I would be surprised if we don't see a concede here by Florida on this final match pretty quick here. Yeah, that Leroy Jenkins is not going to get them anywhere. They're going to tap up, and probably
see a single taunt.
And that's ACU taking the match point here against the South Florida JFW. ACU taking their first win out of 2 so far. Their first win in the Hearthstone TeSPA Collegiate Tournament. So it's always exciting when we get to see 5 matches. That was a really good lineup.
It was a much more even fight, and RNG was definitely much more on our side this time.
Well, I think that there wasn't a whole lot of RNG that played into a lot of it. ACU just piloted their decks really well.
Oh, yeah.
Florida did a similar job. That Zoo Warlock just wasn't really favored against many of our decks, and so in order to win, you have to be able to win with all 3 decks. And so
Oh, yeah.
it came down to that Hunter against the Warlock. ACU built up that giant wall, and were able to take that match. We're going to go to a quick break, though, and then when we come back, hopefully we'll be able to do an interview with one of our players.
Transition. That's pretty good
Yeah,
transition.
it's a nice transition.
Yeah.
So we're here with Swell Fellow, who was piloting several of those decks today. What a great set of matches.
Yeah, we did really well today. We came out on top 3-2. It was a close in the middle, but at the end we were able to just kind of push right through.
So let's talk a little bit. Let's go to the very beginning. So that very first match was your Death Rattle Hunter against their Odd Rogue. So tell me a little bit what happened there.
So we anticipated a win just because Death Rattle Hunter is really strong. We got aggroed out, and I think the Fungal Mancer at the end kind of just sealed the game out, and we didn't have a whole lot. We were afraid for the Giggling Inventor for if they played Blood Knight, then that was just going to be a really rough turn for us,
Yeah.
and that just would have, ended the game right there. But we played pretty well. We just weren't able to get anything down and have it stick, especially because the South Sea deckhands, they cold-blooded in, and we weren't able to keep our big taunts up for very long. But they would have Vile Spined was our other thought, so
Yeah.
went about as well as we could have hoped.
So that second match was the Warlock mirror match, but it wasn't really a mirror match because
No,
it was a
absolutely not.
Zoo Warlock versus the Even Warlock. So tell me a little bit about that.
So our tech choice of a sack pack really came into play at the end. We were able to sack pack out. We just had pretty dominant control from the beginning. We plated Beetled, we had the oozes, we had the big taunts to keep up a big wall, and we were able to board clear pretty early on. They had 5 guys out, we board cleared them, and then we had 8-5 left over, and it wasn't too close of a game that game, just because we had a really strong start and a good nice amount of control cards in our hands to keep them from going out of control.
And from there, we went to Rogue, the Odd Rogue versus what was the next match?
It was our Odd Rogue versus their Zoolock.
Yeah, you got better memory than I do. That's good.
So,
that's why you play this game and I don't.
Yeah. So that game I was very eager to play into since I thought that Odd Rogue is a whole lot stronger than even Warlock. We have the hero power is a 2/2 weapon. That clears almost all of the creatures that they can play out onto the field. which is pretty helpful. We just had good tech choices. The Vile Spines, as always, come in handy. That card's just insane. And then, even though we had a little bit of a slow start, we had a lot of 3-drops in hands and not a whole lot of 1-drops. We were able to keep pushing through, and we were able to get the win.
Okay, and then the fourth match, y'all had a little bit of trouble on, which was your Death Rattle Hunter against their Spell Hunter.
Yeah, Spell Hunter is a really strong deck. In the room, I called it. I said they're gonna play turn 2 secret, turn 3 secret, and turn 4 into the Spellstone. Yeah, into Coin Spellstone. And I was like,
And that's exactly what played
that's
out.
Exactly
I
what
got
played out. As I saw.
3 wolves out on board.
On turn 4.
On
it was
turn
pretty
4,
rough,
that's hard
but,
to deal with.
The main issue was that they had freezing traps up twice. And due to that, we just weren't able to develop a strong board presence early on enough. They had too many cards in hand, and then whenever they did To My Side, some of the Leok just kind of sealed the game out for them. So that's all right. We played about as well as we could have given our circumstances.
And then let's talk about Game 5, because Game 5, that was such a dominant wall built up with just so many Grizzlies on board.
We did have a lot of Grizzlies. Our turn 6 was an amazing tempo swing. We had, the 3-2 out. It was looking about even. They had several less cards than us. We had some good stuff in our hand. But as soon as we drew that play dead, it was a no-brainer. Here's the entire turn. We get 2 3-12s out, and that just seals the end. Because that deck had no spot removal. It didn't have a way to deal with just some fat guys sitting in their way. So, all in all, turned out pretty well for us this time, a lot better than last week.
Yeah, now congratulations on your win. I think it was well fought and a good job. We're going to go to another quick break, and then we're going to be right back with one more of our players. And we're back with Jay Dragon here. He's one of the other 2 members on the team. Him along with Equal D. So I'm just going to give you an open question. What was some of the greatest moments of that particular set of matches?
Oh, the first win was definitely felt really good because especially after what happened last week, getting that first win felt really good against that Warlock. I'm disappointed that we never get to play our Token Druid though.
It would be great to see that Token Druid come out because I think it's a great
Token Druid
deck.
has a lot of big things happen all at once. You just run them down really quickly. But another good feeling is that last one where we sealed the deal on that with those Witchwood Grizzlies felt really good.
Yeah. We were sitting here talking about your match, obviously, and I said, the greatest draw that they're gonna have here would be a play dead.
Yeah.
And there it comes.
I was hoping for that play dead. I was like, play dead, play dead.
It was a great moment.
Yeah.
So
thing, yeah,
go ahead.
Good. No, another thing that was really satisfying during that game was that Deathstalker Rex draw. That felt so good. when you have a full board on the other side and you draw Deathstalker Rex, it feels so good to get that damage in.
Yeah, because that brought you into just enough for a full clear.
Yeah.
While not really sacrificing anything and having
Pretty
this
much.
dominant presence.
Yep. I like it. I like this deck. It's fun playing it.
So if there was something you would do differently, what would you change?
Differently in this deck. I'm trying to think of what.
Or in any of the decks or any of the plays that you made today.
Any of the decks. I think it all starts with how we mulligan. I think that sets the tone for the rest of the deck because often we were like, maybe if we had kept this, maybe if we had started off with this instead. Those first few plays are what I think need to change. Some of them are set in stone, like even Warlock, you're gonna tap, but for the Hunter and Rogue, what we mulligan is definitely key, and especially depending on what we play.
So, you're talking about the mulligan. Talk to me a little bit about your choice on keeping that Witchwood Grizzly in that last match, because that was key. That won you the
That
game.
was.
But it's a 5 cost in your first opening hand. What was your thoughts on that?
So that was Xander's thought. That was Swellfellow's thought on keeping that. I was because I play this deck a lot. I like to get that Devilsaur Egg or Kalaseth out early, and that's what I mulligan for. But I understand he was saying it's Zulok getting that taunt on the board really quick. If we don't draw it, it'll. My mentality is that we're gonna draw it, but if we don't, then that's really tough on us. So I think keeping it was the best decision there
Yeah,
for sure.
it turned.
Yeah, definitely for sure.
Yeah, it was like Jesus feeding the 5,000. You had a single Witchwood Grizzly that turned into 1,000 of them.
Yeah, no, that's great. When you get that thing going with those the cube and the play deads and we had a Terrascale Stalker too. So I mean, if they had some way to deal with those four, we had two
Yeah.
more, and they still had a pop thing.
Yeah.
So we were set. We had a wall for days.
Well,
And-
thank you guys for playing with us today, and it was great. A great set of games. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back probably on Sunday for another 2 Overwatch games, and next Monday for another Hearthstone game. We're gonna keep casting what we can as we can. I want to thank Clueless for joining me here at the desk today, and Alec for running our production for us. So we'll catch